If you want the Raiders to go out and draft Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, hit that like button. I say that because I think you're really going to enjoy the video that I got here today. My name is Mitchell Renz. You were watching the Raiders Report, and coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you why the Las Vegas Raiders should draft quarterback Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall in the 2026 NFL Draft. I want to be very clear on this statement here. I am making this video with the idea that the Raiders are going to have the number 1 overall pick. If the Raiders don't have the number 1 overall pick, you got way too many holes to fill to be able to trade up and go get a quarterback. So if you don't have the number 1 pick, I don't think you can go out and get Fernando Mendoza. Now, for some of you who maybe don't follow college football, I don't follow college football as closely as I will leading up here to some of these extra bowl games, but Fernando Mendoza has been somebody that I've been watching very, very closely. He's 6'5", 225 pounds, though I do wonder, after seeing the picture from the Heisman ceremony, I wonder if he's 6'5", maybe he's 6'4", I don't know, maybe he's a little bit shorter. But 33 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a very high-level completion percentage there of 71.5, nearly 3,000 yards. And he is a very pro-ready style quarterback, very smart. You could tell his pocket awareness is right there. I look at Mendoza, and I really do view him as a more athletic Jared Goff that maybe doesn't have the quite arm strength as Goff did first coming out of college, out of Cal. But Mendoza, to me, can be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. It just might take a little bit of time for him to get there. And you want to talk about awards. I don't know if he's got a trophy case, but he better get a bigger one, because in 2025, Mendoza won the Heisman, the Maxwell, the Walter Camp, the Davey O'Brien, AP College Football Player of the Year, Big Ten Most Valuable Player, Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, Big Ten Quarterback of the Year, First Team All Big Ten, and the Big Ten Championship Game MVP. And I bet you if you ask Mendoza, that's the one he cares about the most. From a college stats perspective, his first few years, he was at Cal in 2024 and in 2023. At Iowa, where he is right now, you can see that he has gotten better year after year after year. And I understand that he might not be this quarterback that jumps off the page in terms of these incredible athletic abilities, but one of the things that I love about Mendoza, and he has said it so many times, he's the best version of himself. And when you're the best version of yourself and you're a leader of men and you can just really rally your team in the biggest situations possible, that's what I think I look for in a quarterback. And I don't just say this because Brady's the owner of our team, but also Tom Brady was not a very athletic quarterback. In fact, I'd say he's probably one of the least athletic quarterbacks we've ever seen at the Combine. If you're judging a QB just based on athletic traits, and let's also just say this, Mendoza is way more athletic than what he gets credit for. If you believe in a player that can get better and better and better and has shown you that he can get better and better and better, that's somebody that I believe in, and that's someone that I would want to do a rebuild with. It's somebody that I would want to build with the Las Vegas Raiders. And yeah, you're damn right. The fact that he's a Cuban-American, the fact that he's got some of those roots, I think he is a freaking perfect fit with Raider Nation and with the Las Vegas Raiders organization. Let's go to the first reason here of why I want the silver and black to draft the Indiana quarterback. We need a flipping QB, do we not? And this is a quarterback-driven league. Look at a lot of the teams right now in the playoff races. A lot of those teams are rebuilding with a young quarterback because you can spend a lot of money elsewhere, which is going to help your young quarterback be the best version of himself. And let's just keep it a buck here. Geno Smith, he's going to be gone next season. He wants out. Kenny Pickett, he's going to be a free agent. I don't see them bringing him back. And I know Aiden O'Connell and Cam Miller, in my personal opinion, are just NFL backups. But in all honesty, I think a great quarterback room would be Mendoza, Aiden O'Connell at $1.2 million, and Cam Miller. Cam Miller's from the FCS. He's a fighter. He's a clawer. You know Aiden O'Connell is a professional. And I'm not saying that I would have Mendoza learn underneath Aiden, but one of the jobs that I think O'Connell could do is be that mentor for Mendoza. And that's, I actually think, a great recipe to make sure that Mendoza can be that best version of himself. I'll also say that he's clearly the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. I am going to make my statement. I'm going to continue to stay on that statement. I believe Mendoza is above Dante Moore. But with even that being said, there's a lot of rumors right now that Moore could go back to Oregon. If Moore goes back to Oregon, Fernando Mendoza is the only quarterback that I would even consider drafting in round 1 of the 2026 NFL Draft, and he's going to be the number 1 pick. Lock it in right now. Fernando Mendoza will be the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. If you're looking for more draft videos and you bleed silver and black, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I've had a lot of real ones. I've had a lot of Mount Raider Moors, Silver and Black Hills, a lot of people that watch this show every single day, to the mods, to Lesbo, Ron Raspberry, Robert Jansen, all my real ones that are always here. They want more draft content. I'm looking forward to the offseason. I'm going to start doing a lot more draft content. I hope that you've seen that I'm starting to do more draft content. If you're just at that point in the season, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on those notifications. It does mean a lot to me. Let's go to the next reason here. Why the Raiders should go draft Mendoza. Let's try something new. I see Taino giving me a salute down below. Shout out to my guy, Taino. Let's try something new. Let's try something that the Raiders haven't done in a very long time. The last time that the Raiders drafted a quarterback in round 1, I know, it's the biggest bust of all time at number 1. It's Jamarcus Russell. But the Raiders have tried this journeyman quarterback route since moving on from Derek Carr, and the reason why they've done that is because they've brought in head coaches that instead of building around the roster that we have, and I know I'm asking them to bring in a new quarterback, but you're bringing in the Jimmy Garoppolo's, you're bringing in the Geno Smith. I want to rebuild with a young rookie quarterback because I actually think it's the best way to be able to do it. So if you rebuild with a young rookie quarterback, you also then don't overpay a veteran, because with the amount of holes that this team has, we have a lot of salary cap space, but I don't want to use a lot of that salary cap space on a Jimmy Garoppolo, on a Geno Smith. Let's keep our quarterback market cheap. Then we spend all that money on defense, spend the money on the trenches. Let's spend the money elsewhere to put the best team possible around an Ashton Genty, around a Brock Bowers, around a Fernando Mendoza, because the quarterbacks that have been starting here for the Raiders since Derek Carr, and really just since 2022, have been abysmal. There is not a single starting quarterback on this list outside of DC. DC to me is a starting caliber quarterback. I don't know if he's a starting caliber quarterback in the year 2025, but you're not going to have a lot of success. I don't care who your head coach is, right? And it doesn't help when you hire bad ones. It doesn't help when you got a Josh McDaniels, and Antonio Pierce, a Pete Carroll. You need a great quarterback for those 3 guys to be able to win football games. So when you combine bad head coaches with bad quarterback play, you're going to look like the way that the Las Vegas Raiders have looked over the past 3 seasons. And if you want to attract that great head coach, your top candidates, you got to be able to show them that you have a path to a quarterback. And the easiest path that the Raiders have to a QB is that number 1 overall pick. But the number 1 thing that I feel like I got in hell, we got a super chat earlier today on our live program talking about Jamarcus Russell and Fernando Mendoza. So my question to you is this: is Jamarcus Russell anything like Fernando Mendoza? Give me a yes, give me a no. My answer coming up here after this YouTube ad break. If you thought my answer was going to be yes, then I just don't know if you even know who Jamarcus Russell or Fernando Mendoza is. I actually think if you were to put complete opposites, Jamarcus Russell and Fernando Mendoza are literally the definition of yin and yang. They look nothing alike. They play nothing alike. They act nothing alike. And I do really believe Jamarcus Russell had some talent, but he was just a really lazy piece of crap, and I will continue to stand on that. Fernando Mendoza, you might think he's a little bit corny, and he is a little bit corny. But I kind of like that about him. I think he is such a great man. I think he's a great leader. I think he would do everything in his power to make sure that he doesn't fail. And no way he's going to be watching the blank tapes. I often say this when we talk about the draft because far too often fans grade a player based on their helmet, right? The amount of times that I heard, the Raiders shouldn't draft a quarterback from LSU, but hey, Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels recently. Or, hey, the Raiders shouldn't draft a player from this school because past players from that school have struggled. I mean this, just because back in 2006, we drafted Jamarcus Russell number 1 overall and he was a bust, if your number 1 reason why you don't want the Raiders in 2025 to draft a quarterback number 1 overall like Mendoza is because of Jamarcus Russell, I'm not going to be able to help you out, and you're just living in the past. But let's get one thing straight here. Fernando Mendoza and Jamarcus Russell are nothing alike. And I mean nothing alike. So if that's why you're worried about the Raiders drafting a quarterback number 1, I hate to say it, but, I'm not even going to say it. I think you guys know what I'm going to say. Personally, I think it's an ass take. And we got more reasons coming up here why the Raiders should draft Fernando Mendoza, but I think we got the perfect sponsor on today's show. The Raiders, their ass. We'd all agree on that, right? And I'm trying to help your ass be a little bit cleaner for the holiday season. Shout out to today's sponsor, Tushy, because what do you give a sports fan who has everything but a respectable offensive line? A Tushy bidet to soothe their stress hemorrhoids. Loser in our fantasy league has to put truck nuts on their car. Winner gets a Tushy bidet. I'll tell you this right now, that sounds like a fantasy league that I want to be in. Tushy is the everyday luxury bidet that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and bottom health for life. I'm telling you this, if you've never used a bidet, it's a game changer. It's like going from a quarterback like Geno Smith to a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza. Tushy Wave instantly modernizes your daily routine and bathroom with a super sleek seat plus 2 separate front and rear nozzles for the most complete clean. Remember, a-hole is only a naughty word if you wipe. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code CHAT at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code CHAT. That link is going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. But this fits 95% of toilets. 8.5-minute DIY install. Fresh as tap water. No outlet needed. And I'll just say it like this, man. You know, if you were to, let's just say, I take out Chuck. Obviously, it happens. Obviously, sometimes the bag breaks. The bag breaks, you get poop on your finger. You just wipe it off with toilet paper? No, you wash your hands. Why not wash your butthole? You know what? I think we should get one of these in the Raiders Stadium. Speaking of corny, no, that would be disgusting. Coming up, more reasons why the Raiders should draft Fernando Mendoza. And my next reason is he is a leader of men. You can't tell me he's not. Like, look at how his players around him, like he won the Heisman Trophy, right? He walks out into his room, and all of his Indiana teammates are fired up, and they cheer for him. They rally for him. I mean, he has helped turn Indiana, into a powerhouse and the number 1 team in the country. Like, Cignetti has done a great job, and Cignetti deserves a lot of credit. Fernando Mendoza, though, also deserves a lot of credit because Mendoza and Cignetti, I think, are kind of like that perfect mesh. And whoever we end up hiring, if we end up hiring a young, innovative head coach, I think it's going to be a good mesh. Tom Brady and Fernando Mendoza, I think it's a really good mesh. But you need to be a leader at quarterback on and off the field because when you don't have that, you end up being in a situation like the Raiders have, right? Like when you give somebody a captain patch and they are out there flipping fans off and they're doing all the wrong things, it sends a bad message to everybody in that organization. But the Raiders, we need that change from top to bottom. And you get a guy like Mendoza, and he's going to instill what it means to be a leader of men. And I get it, he plays only one position at quarterback. But he's going to make everybody else on that field better. Because when you believe in yourself, and if you're a team and you believe you're never out of it, look at the New England Patriots, 28-3 comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. When you really, truly believe that you are never out of a game and that at any moment your guy can get it done, it makes everybody else on that team better. So I get it. Fernando Mendoza is only a quarterback, but we have a lot of holes on this team, yes? We have a lot of new pieces we need to be able to build, yes? I think when you add a guy like Mendoza, he has that Brady-esque factor that's going to make everybody else around him better. And that's the piece that we've been missing. A quarterback that leads by example and a quarterback that we can build with. To me, that's Fernando Mendoza. Here's what he had to say after winning the Heisman Trophy. I want every kid out there who feels overlooked, underestimated to know I was you. The truth is, you don't need the most stars, hype, or rankings. You need discipline, heart, and people who believe in you. And you need to believe in your own abilities. I hope this moment shows you that chasing your dreams are worth it no matter how big or impossible they seem. If I told you right now, that the Raiders could be a playoff caliber team, think about how impossible that is. I bet you if I would have told you last year that Indiana would be the number 1 team in the country, Big Ten champions, undefeated, I think a lot of people would be like, man, that sounds nearly impossible. When you have somebody that is just clearly such a great leader, impossible things become a little bit more possible. But that quote right there, if I took off Fernando Mendoza and I said that this was a quote by a quarterback, I think a lot of people sit here and go, man, it kind of sounds like Tom Brady. And it's catching Tom Brady's attention. If you don't think it's catching the attention of this front office, Tom Brady, I think you're kidding yourself. But I know the Raiders getting on track seems very, very far away. But the University of Indiana being the number one team in the country, I think also would have seemed even further away. They have the second most losses all time in college football. Thank you for that stat, Chugs. But it's like one of those things where sometimes things have a weird way of ending up panning out. And I know that this season's been shitty. And I know the last 23 years have been shitty. But who knows? Maybe Fernando Mendoza is the guy that can get this shit on track. Shout out to Tushy Bidet. Let's go to the next reason why I want the Raiders to draft him. He is a winner. You can't tell me he's not a winner. Did you not see all the awards he won this past year? Have you not seen that they haven't lost a game this season? Because when you look at the roster that Indiana has compared to a lot of teams that they've beaten, they don't have the better roster. If you were to look on paper, Ohio State versus Indiana, I mean this, it's actually not close who has more talent. But Fernando Mendoza is leading this Indiana Hoosier team to be a number one in the country, to a 13-0 record. He's showing up in the biggest moments of the game, whether it's the fourth quarter. Like, I want a quarterback that maybe hasn't played his best game, and yet, fourth quarter, it's the 2-minute drill. I'm trying to keep my team's season alive, undefeated season alive on the road against the Nittany Lions in still a hostile environment. I'm going to go down the field. I'm going to lead my team to a drive. We're going to win that football game. Big Ten championship game, second half. Some of the big throws that he was making, the converting on first down, the throw up the right side to really not put the game on ice, but essentially put the game on ice. Winning is contagious. And I think when you have somebody like Mendoza that shows people, one, how to win. There's a lot of people on this Raiders team that don't know how to win. And if you don't know how to win, I don't think you know the proper ways to win football games. So, again, you get somebody in the room that is a winner, and you pair him with somebody that I think thinks very similar to the way that a John Spytek, Tom Brady, and hopefully our next head coach is. That's a winning recipe for success. The final reason of why you do it, and this one maybe isn't as much for the Raiders. I think that this is one more for, I want the top head coach candidate that we can get. At the end of the day, if we don't have a good coaching staff, you're not going to win football games in the NFL. It's as simple as that. And I think when you have the number one overall pick, top two money and salary cap space, 10 draft picks in total, that's very, very intriguing. But the number one thing that I think is going to scare people in terms of being this next head coach for the Raiders is you just fired Pete, you just fired AP, you fired McDaniels. 3 years, 3 different head coaching firings, and it's probably a little bit hard to trust Mark Davis. It's probably hard to trust the Las Vegas Raiders right now. But if I'm this new young head coach and I want to make sure that I got some job security, the best job security that you could do, right there. Because if you draft Fernando Mendoza number one overall, I would like to imagine that you're going to be able to keep that job for multiple years. And I would say you probably guarantee yourself at least 2 to 3 years. So once Pete Carroll is fired, that's 3 firings in 3 seasons. Brady and Spytek, they're going to want that head coach that they bring in, especially if he's going to draft Mendoza, to be able to build with Mendoza, to be able to build this team going forward around Mendoza. So the other reason why you draft Fernando and the other reason why you get on board with drafting Fernando is because I actually think it helps you attract the top head coach candidates out there. Because, again, what's going to be why should any top head coach trust the Raiders that they're not going to get fired after 1 year? You shouldn't. So you try something different. You do something that you haven't done since 2006 when you drafted a quarterback number one overall. You draft Fernando Mendoza number one overall, guarantee this, you ain't getting fired after your first year. Hell, I don't think you get fired after your second year. If the third year's still really bad, then yeah, maybe you have that consideration. But to me, drafting Fernando Mendoza makes this job way, way more attractive, which is what we need. But you know what, though? I kind of am in the mood to give you a bonus reason here of why I want the Raiders to draft Fernando Mendoza. Before I get into that, I'm going to test the water here a little. I'm going to put my foot in, okay? I'm going to see how you guys are feeling. Because I asked my bosses the other day, I said, hey, what do you guys think about me doing a watch party for when Indiana plays again? They would play the winner of Alabama and Oklahoma. This would be January 1st, New Year's Day. I can already tell you this. My wife's not going to love this, right? She ain't going to love it. But at the end of the day, I also know that she understands that this is what I do for a job, and I want to know what type of content do you guys want to see. So, like, if I told y'all, hey, I can't go live, let's say, typically for Thursday night football because the NFL schedule is getting rid of Thursday night here in a few weeks, and I'm going to be going to visit my family. What if I told you I can go live one extra game, and we're going to go live January 1st, 8 p.m. Eastern time for Indiana to be able to watch Fernando Mendoza? If that's something that you would want, type me down below. I want to see how many me's we get. I want to see how many people would show up because I'm going to be very honest. I don't want to show up on New Year's Day if nobody wants to watch that game with me. If you're like, hell yeah, Mitch, I'll pull up and I'll watch that game, give me a me down below because that's what I want to see. Because this is the game. Alabama up against Oklahoma. The reason why I think no matter who plays Indiana and Fernando Mendoza is interesting because Alabama's got a lot of NFL caliber talent on that defense. Can't tell me otherwise. Also, Oklahoma might have one of the best defenses in college football in terms of how they're playing right now. So if you want to see how Mendoza would do up against another NFL caliber defense, because Ohio State's got a lot of talent, you're going to be able to see it. You'll also see John Mateer. You'll also see potentially Ty Simpson, two quarterbacks that are going to be in the conversation of being drafted, and I wouldn't say in round one, but day two picks, in the 2026 NFL draft. So I'm seeing a lot of me's on this live show. I really want to see a lot of those me's, though, a little bit later on when this video goes out. Let's go to the bonus reason of why you draft Fernando Mendoza. Because I believe the Raiders can put him in a situation to succeed in year one. And that might be a hard thing for people to be able to wrap their mind around. But with the draft picks, with the salary cap space that we have, if you put together the right plan, and if you put together the right pieces, you can put him in a position to succeed literally in the very first year because you can get a new head coach and an offensive coordinator to build with. And if you end up hiring, again, in my mind, the right people, a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator to be able to build with, that helps you succeed in year one. You have $107 million in salary cap space. Go out and build your offensive line. Figure out a way to add at least two potential starters to your line, and you're going to have success there. Then, what helps a young quarterback? A good running game. So building the offensive line not only helps your young rookie quarterback, it's going to help your young guy in Ashton Genty as well. Also, what helps a young quarterback? A safety blanket. I think you got the best safety blanket in the NFL and Brock Bowers at tight end. You also, though, got Michael Mayer. But also, this Raiders team does have some young talent on the offensive side of the football, and I get it. People look at this team right now like, oh, the quarterback sucks. The offensive line sucks. Our offense sucks. But I'm going to show you an offense that I don't really think would be all that difficult to be able to build because, again, you have $107 million. If you want somebody in free agency, you have the money to go out and get them. So if you got to overpay, I'm okay overpaying because this offense that I put together, I don't even think it's that difficult of an offense to be able to put together. Now, some of you are going to see, well, wait a minute. JPJ's not at center. It's because if I go out and get the top offensive lineman in free agency, I would consider it. And imagine if you went out with Mendoza as your quarterback. You have Colt Miller at left tackle. What if we just put JPJ at left guard? Because we were able to go out and get center Tyler Linderbaum. And if JPJ wanted to play center, I don't know if you'd be able to get Linderbaum. And, there's other offensive linemen that you'd be able to go out and get. But for the presence of this exercise, if you will, let's say we run a two tight end set. We run some 12 personnel. If you're telling me our 12 personnel has this offensive line, has a running back like Genty, your two receivers in Trey Tucker and Jack Besh, tight end room, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, I'm not saying here that this is a outstanding offense, but I do think that this is a good offense to be able to build with Fernando Mendoza, and you would also be able to go out there and upgrade your defense as well. Now, if you want to find a better offensive lineman than Charles Grant, you can do it. I think my point here was more or less like we're not nearly as far away, I think, is what people think we are, and I'm looking at this Raiders offense. I'd probably give this offense a B+. And to me, again, it's not a top 10 offense. It's probably an offense in the 10 to 15 range. But you know what? Where we are right now, I'm not going to sit up here and try to act like we're going to be able to be a Super Bowl caliber team, a playoff caliber team. But that's an offense in my book that we can win 8 games. If you can get to 7, 8, 9 wins next season for the Raiders, that's improvement. And it's massive improvement. So to me, that's what I'm looking at here. For Mendoza, on the offensive side of the football, I really don't think it would be all that challenging to put together a good offense. If you haven't already, Make sure you guys give me a follow on social media. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365, Twitter, Instagram. I see some people saying some stuff about Charles Grant at right tackle. The right tackle spot for Charles Grant's more like Charles Grant, DJ Glaze, Caleb Rogers. One out of those three guys got to be a starter. If you can find one out of those three guys to be a starter, I think you're moving in the right direction. But let's all be honest, like, that is a much better offense. And I don't think that spends all that much money to be able to create that offense. When you invest in your quarterback and you build your offensive line, you're also investing in Genty. You're also investing in a guy like Brock Bowers. And as far as I'm concerned, that sounds like a pretty good damn investment. That is why I want the Raiders to go out and draft Fernando Mendoza.